Hello and welcome to Foreign Desk on Benway Television. My name is Winifred Yusu. On the headlines, Niger's military government revokes operating license of French nuclear fuel producers. Romania says it will suspend Patriot missile system to Ukraine. Plus, Philippines accuses China's Coast Guard of acting like pirates. Niger's military government has revoked the operating license of French nuclear fuel producers Orano at one of the world's biggest uranium mines. State-owned Orano said it had been ordered out of the Imariren mine in northern Niger, which sits on an estimated 200,000 tons of the metal used for nuclear power and weapons. Orano insisted in a statement that it had recently resumed activities at the site, reopening infrastructures to accommodate construction teams in line with the wishes of the government. Mining was meant to have started at Imariren in 2015, but development was frozen after the collapse in world uranium prices in the wake of the 2011 Japanese disaster when a tsunami hit the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant in the northeast of the country. The Nigerian government's decision to revoke Orano's license may have wider geopolitical stakes as the government, which has increasingly turned to Russia and Iran for support, pledged to review foreign mining concessions in the country after it took power in July last year. Orano has been present in Niger since 1971. Niger, which accounts for about a quarter of the natural uranium supply to Europe, is landlocked and its border with Benin. Its main sea access is closed, hindering exports of its minerals. A uranium mine at Akokan has been closed since 2021, but Orano runs another uranium mine in the northern region of Alit despite what it terms logistical difficulties. Rights groups have said that at least 200 people were injured and more than 100 arrested after Kenya in nationwide protest against government tax hike plans. 5 groups, including Amnesty International, said in a joint statement that at least 105 protesters had been arrested in a violent crackdown by riot police that included the use of tear gas, water cannon and rubber bullets. Protests against the budget proposals, which are aimed at raising $2.7 billion in additional taxes, widened in 19 of Kenya's 47 countries. Nairobi's central business district was brought to a standstill as horse riding riot police threw tear gas canisters and opened water cannon on demonstrators. The protesters, who began their demonstrations on Tuesday, are demanding that lawmakers vote against the legislation, which is expected to be burdensome for salaried Kenyans, entrepreneurs and consumers. They say the administration of President William Ruto has gone back on its pledge to reduce taxes and lower the cost of living. The new taxes would include a 2.75% levy on income for the National Medical Insurance Plan, as well as increased taxes on vegetable oil and fuel. Those who demonstrated said the amendments did not go far enough and that they want legislators to totally reject the budget legislation. Despite the protests, parliamentarians have passed the finance bill in its second reading. There will be a third and final reading of the contentious measure next week. The final version must pass before June 30th, 2024. President Vladimir Putin said that Russia may supply weapons to North Korea in what he suggested would be a mirror response to the Western arming of Ukraine. Putin was speaking to newsmen in Vietnam a day after signing a mutual defense agreement with his leaders, Kim Jong-un. Putin threatened earlier this month that Russia might supply arms to Western adversaries because the West was providing high-precision weapons to Ukraine and giving it permission to fire them at targets inside Russia. The treaty signed by Putin and Kim commits each side to provide immediate military assistance to the other in the event of armed aggression against either of them. Putin said Moscow expected that his cooperation with North Korea would serve as a deterrent to the West, but that there was no need to use North Korean soldiers for the war in Ukraine. The United States and Ukraine say North Korea has already provided Russia with significant quantities of artillery shells and ballistic missiles, which Moscow and Pyongyang have denied. Putin said South Korea would be making a big mistake if it decided to supply arms to Ukraine, and that Moscow would respond to such a move in a way that would be painful to Seoul. The remarks came after South Korean news agency Yonhap said Seoul would review the possibility of supplying weapons to Ukraine in light of the Mutual Defense Pact signed by Putin and Kim. South Korea's military has fired warning shots after several North Korean soldiers briefly crossed the border. The Joint Chiefs of Staff JSCS said the incident occurred when the North Korean soldiers crossed the military demarcation line running through the middle of the Demilitarized Zone (DMZ). In a statement on Friday, the JCS said after South Korea's military warnings, broadcasts, and shots, the North Korean soldiers retreated back northwards. Similar incident took place on Tuesday and on June 9th. On both occasions, which Seoul said appeared accidental, the North Koreans retreated quickly after warning shots were fired. Nuclear-armed North Korea has deployed more soldiers and equipment to the border since abandoning a 2018 military agreement when South Korea suspended parts of the deal in response to Pyongyang's successful launch of its first military spy satellite. According to Seoul, there have been expanding tactical roads and laying more landmines, which have led to casualties as a result of accidental explosions. The incident took place as Russian President Vladimir Putin visited Pyongyang for the first time in 24 years, and the two countries signed a mutual defense pact that has raised alarm in Seoul, Tokyo, and Washington. On Friday, South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yol and United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken condemned the treaty as a serious threat to the peace and stability of the region. Let's take a very quick break. Foreign Desk will be back with more stories. Do stay with us. Welcome. Now, former United States President Donald Trump has said he would automatically grant green cards to foreign graduates of U.S. colleges if re-elected. This, according to analysts, is an unexpected turn from the Republican known for his tough rhetorics on immigration. During a podcast interview, Trump promised to make it easier to bring talents to the U.S., saying anyone who graduates from a U.S. college should be able to stay in the country. Trump's proposal, which would create potentially hundreds of thousands of new citizenship applicants each year, marks a sharp departure from the headline position on immigration that propelled his rise within the Republican Party. At a campaign event in Wisconsin on Tuesday, Trump hit out at a program President Joe Biden announced this week that will allow undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens to apply for permanent residence without having to leave the country. According to estimates by the Department of Homeland Security, some 11 million migrants are living in the U.S. without authorization. A green card gives individuals the right to live and work permanently in the U.S. and offer a pathway to citizenship. North Atlantic Treaty Organization member Romania has announced it will send a Patriot missile system to Ukraine, which has repeatedly called on its allies to increase their air defense support as Russia attacks its energy infrastructure. President Volodymyr Zelensky said last week that Russia had destroyed half of Ukraine's electricity generating capacity and it needed 7 Patriot missiles systems and other aerial defenses to shield Ukraine's urban centers, seeking to curb each other's ability to fight in a war that is now in its 3rd year. Russia resumed its aerial attacks on Ukraine's power grid, while Kiev's forces targeted Russian oil facilities with cross-border drones attacks. Russia fires 9 missiles and launched 27 Shahed drones at energy facilities and critical infrastructure in central and eastern Ukraine. Air defenses intercepted all the drones and 5 cruise missiles, according to national power company Ukrengo. The attack hit power structures in the Donetsk, Dnipropetrovsk, Kiev, and Vytsia region of Ukraine, causing extensive damage. Ukrenergo announced extended blackouts across the country despite receiving electricity imports and help with emergency supplies from European countries. Meanwhile, in Russia, authorities in 2 regions reportedly fires at oil storage depots 2 days after a Ukrainian strike started a huge blaze at another refinery. The overnight drone attacks were carried out by Ukraine's security service. Turkey's health minister Fahrettin Koca says at least 5 people have been killed and dozens hurt as wildfires swept through several villages in the southeastern part of the country. Koca, in a statement on X, reported that the deaths from the overnight blaze between the cities of Diyarbakir and Mardin on Friday. The fire started with the burning of crop stubble. Fanned by winds, it moved quickly through the villages of Koksalan, Yachigi, and Bakchik. Viral images showed a huge blaze lighting up the night sky with vast clouds of smoke blowing into the air. According to the Yakri governor, Ali Ihansu, 4 emergency teams and 35 ambulances were sent to the scene. Meanwhile, in northwestern Turkey, firefighters were battling to contain a wildfire near the town of Avakchi in Kanakel province. No one was hurt, but authorities evacuated the small village of Kamkoy as a precaution. It was one of the several wildfires to have erupted in the province of Kanakel in the past week amid high winds and scorching summer temperatures. Indian authorities say at least 34 people have died, with dozens more being treated in hospital after drinking illegally brewed alcohol in the southern state of Tamil Nadu. A state government spokesperson confirmed the deaths caused by consuming alcohol tinted with methanol. The incident occurred in the Kalakriti district, where more than 100 people suffering from vomiting, stomachache, and diarrhea were admitted to hospitals, triggering a police investigation. District official MS Prasant said the number of patients in critical conditions kept changing suggesting that the death toll could rise. The state government confirmed in a statement that it had suspended at least 10 officials, including the district collectors and police chief. Police have arrested one person for selling illicit liquor and seized 200 liters of the methanol mixed alcoholic drink. Deaths from illegally brewed alcohol are common in India, where the poor cannot afford licensed brands from government-run shops. In 2022, more than 30 people died in eastern India's Bihar state, and at least 28 died in Gujarat state in the west after drinking tainted liquor sold without authorization. Let's go for another quick break. We will be back with more stories, so stay with us. Welcome, it's still Foreign Desk on Benway Television. Now, the Philippines have accused the China Coast Guard of acting like pirates. It said personnel armed with knives and spears boarded their resupply vessels at Second Thomas Shore in the latest confrontation in the disputed South China Sea. Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces General Romeo Browner said the incident took place as Filipino soldiers attempted to resupply sailors stationed on the Sierra Madre, which Manila grounded on the reef in 1999. The Philippines have one of their sailors was badly injured and the boats damaged. The situation at Second Thomas Shore, which lies within the Philippines Exclusive Economic Zone (EEZ), about 195 kilometers from the western Philippines island of Palawan, has become increasingly fraught in recent months, with China attempting to disrupt the Philippines' regular missions to the Sierra Madre. Beijing denies its personnel acted inappropriately. China claims almost the entire South China Sea under its 9-dash lines and has continued to build artificial islands and military outposts on outcrops and reefs despite an international tribunal ruling its claim to have no legal basis in 2016. Beijing has backed up its claims with ships from its Coast Guard, maritime militia, and fishing fleets, and began enforcing a 2021 law that it says allows its Coast Guard to use lethal force against foreign ships in waters that it claims, and to detain alleged foreign trespassers without trial. That's all we have for you on Foreign Desk. But before we go, let's take a recap of the top stories. We told you Niger military government has revoked operating license of French nuclear fuel producers. Also, Romania has said it will send Patriot missile systems to Ukraine. And we intimated you that Philippines has accused China's Coast Guard of acting like pirates. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Winifred Yusu. Keep watching Benway Television.